Thank you, Geert, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We have one of the dreaded post-lunch slots, but I'm told there's coffee after this, so just bear with us. I'm sure you'll find it quite interesting. We are the team that spent the year working on a project with UNHCR. Let me quickly introduce the team. We have Luis Rosas, we have Aya Olivia Nakitanda, I'm Victoria Iverson, and joining us on Skype is Alex from Russia. As Geert mentioned, unfortunately Susan is unable to join, but we were able to work very closely with her on what began as a very broad mandate. Our brief stated our task would be to provide UNHCR with a practical set of guidelines on the implementation of sports programs in refugee camps. And very quickly we agreed with Susan that we would try to narrow this scope down to a more specific set of objectives, if you will, which would include compiling a set of best practices and designing a pilot based on our choice of scope, which is Uganda, and we'll come to why a little bit later on. With that in mind, and in terms of the methodology and the process we adopted, we used what I would describe as a funnel approach, which is illustrated on this particular slide. We would begin by researching the use of sport and development and humanitarian activities more broadly, using the literature that we had access to ourselves on the web, but also facilitated through Susan's help at UNHCR. We would use this to paint a broad picture of the landscape of existing projects to provide an overview of what is being done in this field worldwide. And this would then help us come up with a general set of best practices in terms of what a good implementing partner does and what a successful project in this field looks like. We would then focus on understanding the situation in Uganda in order to design a particular pilot using all of the aforementioned elements, and finally wrap all of this up with a set of recommendations. What you will find is that this particular approach is by and large reflected in the structure that we adopted for the written report, which some of you may have looked at already. I think for us the most interesting part, and indeed the validation of our work, if you will, was that to the extent that we were able to work and gain information autonomously, we were able to complement that with a wealth of insights from a number of semi-structured interviews. The interviewees are listed on this slide. And we're extremely grateful to everyone who was able to talk to us and share their insights, not just because this enabled us to have very interesting conversations with very bright people, but because we were able to nuance some of the findings of our own research with their first-hand experience in the field, but also on the ground. It furthermore enabled us to run by them our own ideas and set of conclusions for the pilot and recommendations, and we relied heavily on them for some of the very candid opinions they provided on what they thought from their experience would work and would not work in terms of our pilot design. And this is a nice way to segue to the next part of our presentation, which is by Aya. She herself, in a way, acted as one of our key informants, and perhaps we should have put her name on the slide, given that she herself is from Uganda and is best positioned to explain the situation there.
Thank you, Victoria. I would like to begin by highlighting the theories relevant to our project that we defined in detail, and these include Sport for Development and Peace, SDP, the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, refugees and internally displaced persons, the IDPs. Sport for development and peace is a concept of using physical activity to achieve specific development objectives, including the Millennium Development Goals. And the Millennium Development Goals are the world's time-bound targets in addressing extreme poverty in its various dimensions, including income, hunger, disease, exclusion, as well as basic human rights the rights of every human being on this planet to education, to health, to security, and shelter. The Sport for Development and Peace is a worldwide movement which includes not only government and intergovernmental agencies, national and international non-governmental organizations, but also big transnational companies. We understood that sport can be applied for development and peace, as was historically applied in the ancient Olympic Games, and also because of its benefits, which are seen to be in line with the Millennium Development Goals. And these include individual development, health promotion, social integration, among others. The emphasis is always on elite sport, is on mass sport as opposed to elite sport, and is used to reach out to the most disadvantaged communities, including the sick, the disadvantaged, the impoverished, and the discriminated, including the refugees, our target population. Refugees are people who cross an international border seeking sanctuary from conflict, while an IDP is displaced but remains within his own country. I would now like to describe our target population further by illustrating the refugee situation in Uganda, where I come from. Uganda, as many of you might not know, is a landlocked country in East Africa, bordered in the north by South Sudan, in the east by Kenya, in the south by Tanzania, in the southwest by Rwanda, and in the west by the Democratic Republic of Congo. For the last 30 years, Uganda has been receiving thousands from the surrounding countries in conflict, from the most severe conflicts in history. And they are distributed within 8 settlements spread across 3 regions in Uganda, in the northwest, in the midwest, and also in the southwest. However, a quarter of the refugee population in Uganda resides in Kampala, the capital city, as urban refugees. As of August 2012, there are 200,000 refugees of concern to the UNHCR, and the majority consist of the Congolese, who form 59% of the refugee population, followed by the Somalians and then the Rwandese. They live in camps such as these, more like villages, and receive basic needs from various relief organizations, including the UNHCR. They suffer from trauma induced by their displacement, and as well as the lack of even the basic resources, making them vulnerable in a foreign country. Through our literature review and key informant interviews, we made an analysis of existing sports programs in Uganda. And we found that Right to Play has a big presence in Uganda since 2007, implementing sports programs as their primary mandate, whereas others offer it only as a complementary alongside their education strategy. Further, we went through a SWOT analysis to identify the existing challenges and threats so that we can find solutions, and also strengths and weaknesses, strengths and opportunities for us to build on. I will now give the floor to Alex to give us an insight into our results of analyzing sports for development projects elsewhere in the world, which enabled us to come up with the best practices for our pilot project.
Hello, my name is Alexander Gordon. I'm very sorry I can't be with my team today. With this video, I would like to present a short part of our project. I will talk about the existing sports programs all over the world. To identify the best practices of implementation of sports programs in refugee camps that could have been used for our project, we looked at existing sports projects in conflict zones and refugee camps all over the world. All the projects we analyzed were implemented in Asian and African countries in zones of conflict or in areas of low standard of living and extreme poverty. The main common goals of those projects were improvement of lives of the people involved, education of youth through sport, support of physical and mental health of people, and peace building. Among sports activities that were used in those projects, we found mostly ball games: football, volleyball, netball, basketball. Those are the games that are easy to implement and that don't require a lot of equipment. But not only those sports, we also found Ultimate Freedom Project in the Middle East, yoga program in East Africa, boxing in Afghanistan, cricket, kickboxing, and many others. We also found out that apart from sports activities, many organizations were doing other educational work with participants, such as health education, in particular regarding AIDS prevention, relationship building, community activism, peace building workshops, and women's rights seminars. We find it also important to mention the challenges that organizations might face in the process of project implementation. After analyzing various projects, we were able to identify some of the main ones. Here they are: lack of locally based coaches and sports enthusiasts in the regions of implementation, tension and lack of communication between different ethnic and religious groups, lack of people and funding. However, despite many challenges that organizations were facing, most of them managed to show great results of their work. Among the best achievements we found improvement of participants' health, strengthening ties between communities in areas of conflict, improvement of participants' knowledge of health and sexual issues, positive response to the program from most of the participants. It is important to know, though, that all these great sports projects would have been impossible to implement without help and funding from different partners and organizations. The list of implementing partners includes many types of different companies, foundations, organizations, and federations. We found small sport equipment providing companies being part of these projects, along with many national and international sports federations, charity foundations, big sports umbrella corporations, and giants in the financial world. That was my part of the presentation. Thank you all for your attention, and goodbye.
Hello, I'm Luis. Just to follow what Alex said, these are some of the assistance sport programs that are being used. And what we found out, these are some, well, the main ones, just to see football, volleyball, and netball are the main ones. Here are some advantages and disadvantages of every sport that is being implemented. I'm not going to go through them. Here are boxing, yoga, ultimate frisbee, and just games to play. And we made this analysis of every sport, which one would be better or not. It depends on the type of camp and everything. These are some UNHCR sports partnerships with COP, FC Barcelona, the IOC, and Nike Foundation. Well, as part of our project, we suggested a pilot project, and here are what we analyze. The main goals of this project is to support physical, mental, and emotional health of people, to give back their lives. Some of them are so traumatized that the main thing are this physical, mental, and emotional. Then to facilitate authentic personal expression, build supporting communities. There are some of conflicts or traumatized people, as I said, so to build these communities to help them get through life again. So another one is to inspire positive action through sports, through an active life. These are the stakeholders in the project. Further relief organizations like Right to Play or Save the Children, the refugee community, and the local authorities, as an example in Uganda. The main activities that we propose is the ball games, football, volleyball, and netball, because of the universality. And for example, netball is a sport that women with women and gender issues are a game that is used a lot in refugee camps. Ultimate frisbee is being implemented, and since it's a low cost and easy to implement, it's useful for refugees. And aerobics, jogging, and running for women may be very good to play. Well, some of the challenges, as Alex said, is the lack of local-based coaches and sports, lack of volunteers. So these are some actions that we propose to train coaches and camp staff. The tension of lack of communication between different ethnic and religious groups. There are types of camps, and it depends from the region, the demography, or if there are religious groups in the areas. There are conflicts, and some of them are in war. So you have to be very careful with which type of camp is to implement the sports. no willingness to participate. A lot of the refugees are traumatized. Kids are totally traumatized. So first is to give back life, to give the passion and the willingness to live again, and then help them with the sports. The cultural and religious difference, as I said, women, gender issues is a main task as well. Relationship with local authorities, lack of support. Some local authorities don't care about it, some of them, so you have to, it's a big challenge, so you have to focus a lot on that. Here are some possible partners and fundraising, as we recommend, with the government, sport organizations like the IOC, FIFA, NGOs, sports corporations and equipment. Nike Foundation is doing a lot in Uganda, for example, and there are some brands like IDHEAP that can do this partnership. The sports club, FC Barcelona is known that it's doing a lot. And foundations, players foundation like Leo Messi is a very, well, the top player right now in football. So here are some possible partners and fundraising. As our conclusions and recommendations, we propose these things that are important and fundamental. The planning phase is crucial. The way you start the program, it means a lot. So a good planning is fundamental. To people keep doing sports in the future, to live an active life. It's important to refugees. As I said, the main thing is to give them back their life, but if they can do it with sports and an active life would be much better. The sustainability of the programs, economic and in social aspects. To support continuity, so probably will not get stuck. It's adequate to have a control and to not dump the programs in the people, like have a real feedback and evaluation. The major importance is to get refugees their life back, values and life back, as I said, the demography and camp population characteristics, the type of camps that you're implementing. So to care about that, if the religious or conflict zones, it's important, and it's sports are complementary alongside the education and the basic needs. So these three aspects are important. Sports are not successful in isolation. They have to be care all these aspects. And UNHCR has a central function in it to control and to really organize these programs. And well, yeah, the thing is about caring about being complementary. It's not just sports. First of all is the basic needs, and then through sports help them to get a better life, to do an active life, and to support them to get over their problems. So thanks a lot, and well, open to questions.
Yep.